So Chris, come on in here, my friend, and tell us a little bit about yourself and where you were a few years ago when you were absolutely stuck.
Yeah, it's great to be on today for one, but really it's crazy that it's been about 4 years since I remember coming to a fellowship and kind of sharing my heart with you about where I was. And I remember you drawing on the whiteboard and you introduced me to the deeper path. And by the way, yesterday's teaching on that restoked my fire. I went back and I went back through my opus, which I had kind of done back in December, but I have continued to get more and more clarity about it all, and that's been fantastic because um, it really helped me through this process. Right, I've had to learn that going from day job to dream job is not for the faint of heart. Like it takes a lot of emotional, mental, spiritual strength to go through that journey, but it's all well worth it in the end. And yesterday, honestly, it was crazy because 2 days ago was a year from when I announced to our church, where I'd been working full time for 7.5 years, that I was leaving the staff and that it was time for me to truly launch into my business. And then just kind of continuing to get more and more clarity even this week about, what God has been preparing me to do all along with my business. And then yesterday I had 3 coaching calls with clients and them thanking me for just being present with them. One of the things you teach us to do is kind of write that story of, whether it's a book or your business, like of getting that letter from a thankful client. And
Yes,
I got to hear it yesterday from all 3 of the ones I was on the call with, like in the midst of all this craziness, right? They're helping their organization go through this journey. And I got to the end of the day and I was like, I don't feel like I worked today. I felt like I
yeah,
was just able to just, hang with my friends and help them through their stuff and kind of just work through things. And having done that right after kind of rereading LP Jack's quote about being a master in the art of living, like I didn't know if I was working or playing yesterday. And it was
that is
awesome.
awesome. That is
So
so cool. Well, listen, if people don't know the full story, we're going to get into the content here in a moment. But to set it up, I mean, this content actually works. In fact, the ladies we have, Erica today and Faye, they're going to be sharing a bunch of links for you, free books for everybody. We have your secret name that was on day one, which I'm sure you had to work through the identity piece, because when you
yeah.
kind of grew up thinking I am a pastor and that's all I am, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with being a pastor, but we kind of put ourselves into this pigeonhole where we think that's only what we can do and that becomes our identity.
Yeah.
You basically had to work through that, what I'm hearing a few years ago, to say maybe I could also be a coach
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, one of the biggest challenges that I think a lot of people face, I know I faced, is when we kind of feel like our identity is in what we do. Then when we shift gears and do something different, we wonder,
Mm,
like, am I valuable? And for me, I knew I was a good pastor. I knew I had been successful in that realm in our churches, and I was well used, in that field. But then I started thinking, like, well, what credibility do I have out in the business world?
exactly.
I've been in this bubble, was kind of my thinking for the longest time. And it took a while to get out of that, and I think anytime we shift into a different realm, we find out we have baggage or identity, in other things that we didn't even realize at the time. Um,
Absolutely.
and what I've realized is crazy for me was, and this started to become more clear within the last couple of years, even more, was like my role when I stepped away from being a pastor was being an executive pastor at a church, helping run the staff and management and everything. Um, and I felt like God was saying, I'm moving you to be from an executive pastor to a pastor to executives.
Oh, that's good. Let's stop that again. Because again, some people, they're so locked in and thinking, I'm just a stay-at-home dad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a daughter. But you were saying for years you had trained to be an executive pastor, and then God flipped it in your head and said, what? You're a
Pastor
pastor
to
to
executives.
executives. That is, and listen, Chris, I remember when when they tapped me to be the senior pastor and said, "Hey, we think that you're the next person. Just wait 10 years, but we're going to announce you now, and then you just wait for the senior pastor to retire." I remember I have not cried many times in my adult life, but I remember as being a father of 3 young kids, all under the age of 6, and I actually went into my director's office and cried because I knew I was supposed to say no to being the senior pastor, but I didn't have a backup plan. And I was so afraid that they might say, "Well, you're done.
Yeah.
Here's the door. If you're not going to be the senior pastor and you're saying that you're going to decline that, then we're going to get rid of you." And I remember thinking I had no backup plan.
Yeah.
And I remember crying, saying, like, "Please keep me." I knew I couldn't lie to myself and say, "Oh, I'll be senior pastor," and then just lie and wait 5 years. But I also knew that I didn't have a backup plan. And I hear you kind of saying that you didn't have a backup plan either.
No. And I think that's it. Like, the journey was for me, and I know it's a lot for a lot of people in this journey, is it's the fear of the unknown, right? It's the letting go of what's familiar, what's comfortable. I knew that it wasn't that I hated my job. That's
Right.
the thing. That was what even was hard sometimes for me.
Yes.
Was I love the people. We're still a part of the church that I was serving at. I mean, I still teach every 6 weeks as on our teaching team as a volunteer now, and I love the people. But I knew it wasn't for me long term. And what's really interesting is when I made that announcement a year ago now, all these people have come out and said, we've been watching your journey, and it's one that nobody was surprised, and that was the thing. Like, I was so nervous about sharing, like, I'm stepping away from this role, and people are going, "Man, we've been watching you develop and grow and be who you are." And
they knew it before you did.
They knew it. They accepted it even. For me, I had a hard time of letting go. And sure, there was the fear of finances that, I mean, that's still a journey every day. Like, now building a business, as it's like, it's dicey at times, or you feel like, can I do this still, and how do I get to that next level? And, a safe, comfortable salary is hard to leave. But
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Because a lot of times people, that is the myth out there that, oh my God, I have this for sure paycheck and for sure benefits and for sure job. Mm-hmm. And yet just 2 days ago, I think it was 3.1 or 2 or 3 million people filed unemployment.
Yeah.
Think about that. That's like less than 3 weeks from the announcement of the coronavirus. And last time I checked, I could be wrong with numbers, so don't quote me. But I think we have 300 some million in the U.S. Yeah. I don't know. Look, but 3 million is 1%. 1% of the population said we don't even have more than $400 in savings, which is a lot of people. That's like half the people in America. And then on top of that, their jobs, because they put all their chips on one client.
Yeah.
And you and I talk about how when we have our dream job, and by the way, there's nothing sexy about saying, well, I own my own business, and so therefore I'm all that. Like, it is tough. It is a tough journey. What I encourage people to do is have a side hustle. Mm-hmm. Whatever they're doing, like even if they do have the one job, have another client or couple clients as backup, because otherwise, you go in one day and they say, hey, we had to make cuts and you're one of them. And then it's like, you're gone. So what is more risky, Chris? Is it risky? I mean, how many clients do you think you have right now, roughly, if you just had to pick?
Well, so for me, I've got 2 companies that equal about 15 or 17, I think about 17 coaching clients between those 2 companies. Plus I have a small business owner I've been coaching. Plus I have other, clients that pop up here and there, that kind of keep me busy right now. And I'm still looking to expand that, obviously. But you're right. The difference is if one of those were to drop out, I still have others right now. And, I remember years ago, a guy in a church I was part of was saying, he lost his job. And he said, I'll never just have one stream of income again because of this very, like he didn't have his own business, but he had skills that he was like, I'm going to work in different realms, and have a couple of things or two or three things going at all times, because he knew that things could fall apart. And, I think that's one of when I heard you say to treat your current job as a client
Yes.
to start, that was huge for me, because I do want to give the most value. I do want to be intentional there.
But it gives you choice, right?
It does.
Because otherwise you think, I have to go to my job. I have to, go to work. And when you start having that have to mindset, I tell people all the time, it becomes like the conditions of imprisonment.
Yeah.
You lose your choice. And so instead, what I teach is I say, listen, treat your main employer as a client, just a large client. And at any day, they can let go of you or you can let go of them. In fact, we talk about this in Day Job to Dream Job. It's called the functional freelancer mindset.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Remember that with the functional? Yep. So even if you are an employee, you still function as a freelancer in your mindset. And we're going to go over that in the VIP today in a few minutes. Is we're going to just unpack what a functional freelancer is. Yep. But Chris, let's talk. Let's get into the content. Before we do, first of all, thank you for being the director of the Igniting Souls chapters.
Yeah.
And you came to me after conference in October and said, "Hey, Kary, there's a bunch of us who want to keep this continued." Mm-hmm. In other words, you didn't want the live event to end. And I quickly got in touch with the team, and we basically, in a matter of 6 weeks, created 63 chapters all over the world. And people find out more about this if they go to KaryOberbrunner.com/chapter.
Yeah.
Chapter. You tell me.
Okay. Yep. Singular.
Chapter. So you got the who, what, when, where, why, how. The chapters are free for the world. We just know that it's for people who really want to go deep. And those are our clients. And by the way, folks, any mini course that you get during this whole live stream, we've made ridiculous pricing, $47 for any mini course. That's your secret name mini course. That's the deeper path mini course. That's dream job mini course, because we know people are at a tough spot economically, and we wanted to just give them a massive opportunity. And then if you do that mini course, you have lifetime access into the Igniting Souls tribe, and you can be a chapter member for free forever. So there's so many things that when people say, you know what, I want a little bit of help. And Chris, let's get right there, because you told me a few years ago, you said, I'm either going to have to be a hotel clerk for what, $7 or $8 an hour?
Yeah, like $8.35 an hour. Like I did that for like 3 or 4 months, and it was really fear based. Like I was letting go of what I knew was comfortable to build my business, and things what I didn't understand that I now understand, that it just takes time to nurture prospects and to get the clients that I now have. I was hoping and expecting and honestly kind of demanding of God to give me clients, because I was convinced that I was called to this, and I was, but what I didn't understand was the process I had to go through to become who I need to be valuable to my clients and to build the business side of things. And so, but it wasn't happening right away like I had, expected or anticipated. And so out of fear, I took this job, and once again, I actually enjoyed a little bit doing this job at the hotel, because it taught me some things. I went there as a learner as much as anything, because I was looking at it from, how do I learn in this experience to help my clients, and as I do coach as well. So that part of my journey wasn't certainly not wasted, but the decision was made because of fear. And I remember sitting down with the manager, and he's like, you realize you're like way overqualified, right, for this job? And I was like, yeah, but
But there's so many people right now that, listen, I don't feel bad for anybody who is out there hustling. Like, there's something noble about that. And even the scriptures talk about how when a man or woman provides for their own family, that is godly. And when they don't, it says that they're worse than an unbeliever. I mean, that's pretty strong.
Right.
And I know, I'm not trying to guilt anyone today, but so I just know that certain people are not at their ultimate calling. And that was me for a lot of years too. And I hear you saying that. In other words, you sometimes have to take a job just to provide for the family, and it's not your ultimate destination, and you know
Right.
it and you feel it. And
Yeah.
what the secret is you don't despise that. You don't say, well, this stinks and this is just a stepping stone, because the moment you do that, you're not showing up filled up.
Right.
But
Well, and
I do, right? Yeah,
yeah.
keep
Well,
going.
I was just saying, one of the things that was important for me was there was probably two moments I remember my wife kind of challenging me when I was in that season, especially. Um, One was I was almost going to take another full time job, and it would have taken me out of this journey. Period. Like I would have just basically given up on the dream,
Oh, wow.
and she was like, do you not think this is going to work? Like, why would you do this? Like, you've been so convinced up till now. Like, I did not expect that from her, and I needed her to challenge me at that time because I was thinking she's going to say, yeah, right. We need security. We need whatever. And she's going, why?
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was huge for me. The other was when I decided we went on vacation while I was working at that hotel. We were on vacation that summer, and just I was really praying and thinking through, and we were looking at the next school year ahead. Our kids were, all elementary age, and we were just starting to talk as we were driving on this trip, and it was kind of like the cost of me working that 8:35 an hour job and not being available to my family wasn't worth it, and it was taking me away from my business building, and it was distracting me, all these things, right? So having that support, system in my life was huge because she didn't try to tell me to keep this hotel job. She said, yeah, let's quit doing this thing and you work on your business and we'll figure this out. And so I know that not everybody has a supportive spouse, but
Sure.
we need to find supportive people to challenge us because I'm telling you, I mean, as you know, it's like it's easy to get into a pit when things aren't going as you plan or as you
Yeah.
wanted. And you need people not to wallow in the mud with you, but to drag you out sometimes.
Yeah. Our most popular downloaded podcast ever was when I coached you fictitiously. I didn't say your name, but you had written in and said, Kary, I'm in trouble.
The road is not easy, but it's worth it.